receiver is being a little bitch. That and the fact I've got no idea what I'm doing with it. I did look on the Matrix and found this way of connecting wavelengths with the internet, but that was for a website trying to sell me something back before solar technology. If the solar plants were still operational, I could easily beam a signal up to Breel, but when the rebels took over, they were the first to be hit. When Delut was killed, the Ceruleans, fearing for their own safety, fled and went back to Breel. They'd stayed with us for 4 years during the war, and they helped with defence and morale, but they never got involved with the fighting. I think they were worried about us as well as fascinated at seeing war. War's not happened on Breel for several thousand years. But of course, when one of them was killed, they had to leave, and I don't blame them. The rebels had declared them the evil, and so they got rid of all the transmitters, and when people tried to escape in ships, they shot down all the ships, and with no ships, no one could get to Breel, and no one could contact them. So yeah, all modes of communication were lost. The only good thing that came out of it was the fact that with no ships, no one could get to the lunar colony. Now, the lunar colony was set up to transmit messages to Breel, and it's actually the biggest satellite station we had, and it will still be there. Whether the scientists are there or they've moved on to Breel by now, it's powered by solar energy, so it'll still be working. And if I can get this bloody receiver working, I can beam a message up there and get it sent out to Breel. It'll take a while, but I've got all the time in the world. It's not as bad down here now I have the Matrix. Yeah, I'll do it eventually. I found a pornography server last night. I didn't even think this still existed, but because I'm using an old server, then I guess stuff was stored on there for the people that didn't have holoprojectors. Yeah, it was kind of weird watching it, because for us, when holoprojectors were invented, you could press a button and a naked man or woman could be stood in front of you that you could interact with. Why would you then go back and watch a 2D screen of somebody else having fun? I remember seeing my dad's when I was 13. He had some on his flip pad and it was gross. It was mainly naked women, and I've always preferred guys, so... Yeah, so needless to say, I've not worked on the receiver, but I needed a rest. All this information was completely destroying my inner cortex. So apart from looking at gross images, I've also found some old maps of London, which is great because there's stuff before the flooding and after. In 2027, when the sea levels began to rise, we got Cerulean technology to help pick up the buildings that we wanted to save south of the Thames and move them a kilometre back. And, well, all except the Shard. The Shard stayed exactly where it was, and they waterproofed the entire building and built a submarine station at the base. And so when the water came in, it filled up to halfway up the Shard. And my dad took me for my 18th birthday, and I'm sitting there eating dinner while there's marine life swimming past, and in the distance you can see the old buildings that were left from London that are now underwater. It was amazing. So yeah, so they took the entire south of the river and raked it all back for a kilometre down to about 45 metres, and then built the brand new Thames barrier with all the buildings around there. And so when in 2029, when the water did flood in, it just rose up to the top of the Thames barrier and no further. In fact, we were doing really well as a society. When the ice caps melted, we built these huge solar screens to pick up all the solar energy to power the planet, but reflect back all the radiation. And when seawater refinement was invented, we didn't have to worry about fresh water anymore. Society was doing so well. What went wrong? I slept. For the first time, it seems like forever, I slept. And I was thinking about last night what I said, and it's true. The human race was great at one point. I was too young to remember, but my parents told me that when China took over for America as the world power, the whole world seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. War stopped in the Middle East. Famine was eradicated. The trade embargoes between Russia and the West was stopped, and yeah, it was an amazing time. And then when China and NASA got together and started looking up at the stars to see if there was alien life out there, that's when they concentrated their efforts on Gliese 667cc, which of course is now known as Briel. And we sent our probes up there, but it would take thousands of years before they got there. And it's just amazing that Briel were actually observing us doing this. And in 2021, they sent the first communication from an alien world to us in Cerulean, so we couldn't understand it. But they'd also sent a translation package, and it took a few months for the scientists to work out how to use that. And then those immortal words, I remember being televised on HV. What was it? To the people of the blue planet in the Delta Flexon, we are the Ceruleans of Briel. We are neutrality. We are friends. It was amazing. But even though the UNE, the United Nations of Earth, were celebrating, I now know from my father that all governments were put on high states of alert just in case there was an alien attack. Far too many horrific science fiction novels and films that had just told us that aliens were evil. I mean, let's face it, the only species that we know of that attacks its own and anything that comes in sight is us. Right, I'm wide awake and I'm starving. I'm going to get some horrible hydrated food and some pea water. So I chopped my hair, and even though most of the blue's gone, today is a really good day. I found 3 pieces of information that will help me link the receiver to the internet to the matrix to the solar web, and all the way back to the receiver, and when it works, I'll be sending messages anywhere I want. In case it doesn't work, I can foresee many hours of wielding with glue before the day's out. But hey, I've got this far, I can get anywhere now. But even when they receive the message, of course it'll take them a month to get here. It's amazing to think though that just 30 years ago we were still sending huge rockets up with fuel to go at snail's pace. Then 10 years later these aliens come along and go, hey, use our pen mag engines and you can travel at light speed. Yeah, take that, Einstein. When those first images of Briel came back, they were amazing. You know, Briel is 4 times bigger than Earth, and it has half the planet is in forest. They've got huge valleys that are bigger than the Grand Canyon. They've got 3 suns, 5 moons, and it just looks, well, so alien. And I just want to step foot on it. And you know what? I'm going to get this receiver working, and they will pick me up, and I'm going to be living out my days on Briel. And even if it takes them 2 months to get here, I've got something to live for. I received a message. I was asleep at the time, and I heard this voice shouting at me, and I thought I was dreaming, but then I looked up and there was this blinking red light on the receiver. So I rushed over and just listened, thinking it might be the rebels. And this woman's voice said her name was Sierra, she was in Bangladesh, and had picked up my transmission and wanted to know where I was. But I haven't responded, because all she needs is my location and the rebels could come and get me. Or could they? I could just lie and tell them I'm in York or something. I mean, it is a big port in East England. But maybe they can trace the analogue signal. I just don't know. I don't know anything about these bloody wavelength receiver things. What I need to do is look on the matrix and see if there's any way they can trace an analogue signal. And if they can't, I'll just tell her I'm someone else and somewhere else. I won't lie, it was really great to hear another human voice for the first time in ages. But I'm worried, obviously. I don't want to just dive into this and then next thing I hear is a knocking on the door from the rebels with guns in their hands. I'll look on the matrix and find out if they can trace it, and if not, I'll send her a message back. Well, I contacted her after sifting through loads of pages on the internet. Oh, I missed the whole Matrix. I finally reasoned that no one's going to trace an analog signal. So I contacted her. Her name is Sierra. She's 19 and she lives in Bangladesh. I'm Matt. I'm 25 and I live in York. I'm not going to tell her the real truth, am I? So yeah, apparently there's 15 of them hidden in a bunker in northern Bangladesh, and her mother's really sick and she needs help to help her mother. Unfortunately, the Chinese government gave Bangladesh tons of eye sprays, but when the war broke out, they stockpiled them all. And then, of course, the rebels attacked the governments and took all the eye sprays. So loads of people in Bangladesh died because they didn't have the right medication. And I do, but I just can't get to her. So I'm more determined than ever now to get the ceruleans here to rescue us. Not just for me, but for Sierra and her family and whoever else is out there that needs rescuing. There could be loads of us. And maybe the rebels are gone. Maybe they're defeated or dead. And yeah, they just need to know that we are here. So I'm going to get that receiver working, and I'm going to get the pad to recognise it, and tomorrow Brielle will know that there are survivors on Earth that need their help. Day 21 in the big Brielle house. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually missing reality HV. I'm missing a lot of things, actually. Proper cooked food is definitely up there. These hydrated snacks are sending me insane. What else am I missing? The proper Matrix. That would be good. This internet thing is so slow and cumbersome. It takes ages to find anything. But on the upside, I have actually managed to connect the receiver with my pad, and it's connected properly. It's just that the pad doesn't recognise it. So I've been looking on the Matrix to see if I can find the specs for the receiver, even though they're ancient, and then put those into the pad's data banks so it should recognise technology. If that doesn't work, then I'm probably going to have to rebuild the entire receiver with modern components to make sure the pad recognises it. Of course, I don't have any of those components down here, so that would mean me going to the surface, which is really not the best idea. But I might have to. And to be honest, I've been here 3 weeks. This is my 3rd week in this cell and I'm going insane. But I know I shouldn't put my safety at risk just so I can get some fresh air. And yeah, I still haven't heard from Sierra, which is kind of worrying because I thought she'd be in contact by now, but maybe she's too tied up and can't get back to me yet. Selfishly, I'm worried because she might have been captured by the rebels, and if they've captured her, they might know where I am through the receiver, and yeah, don't think about that. And lastly on my lists of worries is my beard. It's grown so much I look like a hobo and it's started to itch. So I've been looking around for my sonic groomer, and can I find it? No. So I'm going to spend the next 2 or 3 hours trying to find this information for the receiver, and then I'm going to attack those boxes next to the generators and see if it's in there. Here's hoping.